How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffled Reality, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. So today, we have ourselves some brand new information about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Now, this video, I will go through the information, and also, I have some opinions I want to share about these games, and some things that I've noticed about these games that is very much something I want to bring up and talk about. But again, it's going to be very much opinion-based in this video, so I have news information at the start, and it's going to be information-based, or rather info-based, sorry, opinion-based, jeez, at the rest of it. So let's get started with the first thing here, which is motion controls will be compulsory to catch Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu, and Let's Go Eevee. So this information was posted on Nintendo Life. It was also posted on Cerebi, by, Cerebi on their Twitter account, and of course, this came from Eurogamer, the main information. So this was written by Ryan Craddock here on Nintendo Life. Let's see what he has to say. So, adding to the ever-flowing avalanche of information being revealed for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, it has now been confirmed that motion controls will be mandatory requirement for catching a beautiful collection of Pokemon. This news comes from Eurogamer, who claim to have received a statement confirming the action required to capture Pokemon in the game. Of course, we've already seen the throwing motion is used when playing the game in docks mode, but this information tells us that you'll also need to use some movement when playing in handheld. So, basically, when you're playing this in your docked mode, you have to use your Joy-Con, right? You have to use your Joy-Con to actually, throw the Pokeball and catch Pokemon. You have to use it. It is mandatory. It's not something you can choose. There's no option to it. It's not optional and that sort of stuff. So I get that, right? I understand it. But yeah. But when you're using the handheld mode, that's where things get interesting and slightly different. So what they say with handheld is, in handheld mode, with both Joy-Con attached, you're still required to move around to aim, but you press A button to throw the Pokeball. It is not touchscreen like a smartphone because the Switch is quite a bit heavier than your smartphone. So essentially, this is something that I already because I have to re-record this video a few times now. I actually have recorded like 4 times because this information keeps changing and people are telling me different thoughts and ideas and stuff, but it's exactly as I thought. You're going to use the gyroscope to catch the Pokemon handheld, right? You're going to aim like this, which is going to be a bit annoying. I'm going to be frankly honest. It's going to be a bit annoying, especially when you're on the move, right, and having to, aim around like this, or when you're sitting on a plane, right? You're going to have to just be like, okay, let's go. Woo, there we go. I mean, it's a bit of an annoyance, but it's not, the biggest deal. It's, not a big deal, right? It's not the biggest deal in the world, and I don't think it's a big issue. But, right, the fact that when you're in docks mode, you have to, spin around, that's a fair point. I get it. And the reason why I think they're doing it this way and kind of forcing you to use, the motion controls or some sort of movement and stuff is because the catching is connected to the experience and leveling in these games. So of course they want to make you, use these motion controls to make it more challenging and stuff for you to actually catch Pokemon. It actually makes sense. That's the only way you can do this in a balanced way. Because if you could just go into your bag, press, Pokeball and then use, which you would do in any other Pokemon game, that would break their leveling system and their XP, system, and their progression essentially would be, their progression in the games would be broken if they allowed you to essentially just do, just this, press a button and there you go, it's done. Instead, they force you to have to do a little bit of motion and stuff to actually be able to catch them, which I guess is fine. It's totally okay. I get that these games are supposed to emulate what you get on the phone with Let's Go, with Pokemon Go, and then Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee are supposed to emulate that same feeling. That's the point of it. I fully understand that. So I'm okay with that. I'm on board with it. I don't see an issue with it. These games are supposed to be the introductory games for the Pokemon community that is more on the Pokemon Go side, right? The people from the Pokemon Go community are supposed to have this as their kind of entry game, their entry-level game into the Pokemon handheld franchise, right? Or the console franchise part of the games, and not the Pokemon Go part of it. This is supposed to be their way in, which I fully understand. So then, of course, you may be asking, okay, well, but will this stay for the games next year? Probably not, no, because, the only reason I think they kind of force you to use these, motion controls and stuff is, again, because it's tied to progression. Since you can't battle Pokemon in the wild, you're forced to use this as your way of leveling, right? You're supposed to catch Pokemon, and that's how you level up somewhat, as far as we've been told, right? The actual catching of Pokemon is tied to progression, so that makes sense. Of course, there are battles in the game, which I assume you can also battle trainers to gain XP, but I guess catching Pokemon is another way, because, honestly, if you could only battle trainers, the only way that could work as a long-term kind of, way thing is if you had something like the VS Seeker or whatever, so you can basically re-battle people several times in the games. So basically if you've taken on a bug catcher, you can then go and take that bug catcher on again and again and again and again, and maybe they'll scale their Pokemon according to what your Pokemon on what level your Pokemon are on. So that would make sense. But then again, if they don't have anything like the VS Seeker or any of that sort of stuff, where you can't, like, you know, battle trainer several times, then of course it makes sense that, like, the leveling process and progression would be through catching Pokemon, which then again explains why they don't give us the option to just press, you know, A and go into our bag and then throw a Pokeball normally. It explains that part of it, because if they made it super easy, you know, what's the point of even, like, you know, having the motion controls and any of this sort of stuff if you can just press a button, you can throw the Pokeball automatically and catch a Pokemon. It kind of, you know, defeats the purpose of the whole motion controls and the whole, you know, throwing a Pokeball and stuff. But then again, I don't think this is going to be a feature in the 2019 games, because it wouldn't, like, I think, again, it's mainly done for this game for the sake of the progression, I feel like. So that's what I feel like. But they continue on here. So this means that if you're playing the new Pokemon Let's Go titles while on the go, even in awkward places like public transport and the like, you'll still be required to move the console around, even if only slightly to line up your throw. Hopefully the movement will be incredibly subtle, just being enough to, like, perfect the aim rather than completely dictate it. But if no alternatives are available at this comment, as this comment suggests that does raise several concerns. Of course, some people like to play without motion controls as a preference, and you would usually expect to see the option in to turn them off in the menu somewhere. More pressingly, though, any major motion requirement could result in people with limited movement capabilities not being able to enjoy the games. We're hopeful that developers will have thought about this, and hopefully this will become much clearer when we see the games in E3. So that makes sense. Either way, so they ask here, would you like the option to play the games without the need of motion controls? As ever, share your opinions and, you know, stuff. And again, I will ask you guys as well, would you want the option? Because I think I would, right? I would want that option. But again, I think it's tied into the progression. But then comes in the question here, right? Because if you play Pokemon Go, right? You don't need to use the AR and stuff, you know what I mean, like aim around and stuff. You don't need to do that. You can just turn it off. So maybe these games will have that same option. But then again, there comes in the issue of progression. Because if the catching is tied to progression, they wouldn't want to make it super easy for you. They would want to force you to do that. But then, you know, again, there comes in the issue. How would you do for somebody that, like, has, you know, it doesn't, like, maybe is incapable to actually do, like, those sort of movements or move around that much or do some crazy stuff with their hands and stuff, or is just able maybe to just hold the games like this and play, and they wouldn't be able to, like, move it much and, you know, do some crazy maneuvers. Like, you know, people who are in those situations, have they thought about those people and how they would kind of play these games and how that would work for them? I don't know. I think they most likely have. I mean, I don't think Game Freak are freaking evil devils or whatever. I don't think they are. I think that, you know, they're genuine people. They want to make a fun game for the family and people to enjoy. But then again, those things do come into play and do kind of, you know, are things that raise a few questions, because there are a lot of Pokemon fans that maybe aren't able to, you know, make as many, you know, move as much and all that stuff. And I do hope that they, like, as they say here in this article, that it's going to be a very subtle thing, right? But if you move this around, you're just going to have to move it, like, slightly, right? Not too much. Because I noticed when you're playing Mario Tennis Aces, the worst part about that game is when you're using your ultimate and you have to, like, aim around, and it's, like, super hard to, like, pinpoint. You're just, like, sitting like this, like, God, be on the right spot. It's a really annoying thing. Like, I'm not a big fan of gyroscopes in any games I play, even on the phone. Whenever you have to use that, like, that, it's really frustrating. I'm gonna be honest. It's not really something I think is too much fun. Of course, they could probably make it work better in this game. I mean, we'll see. E3 is when people will have their hands on the games, and they'll be able to tell us how that works, and we'll see a bit more gameplay and that sort of stuff. So I don't think we should worry about this too much. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world or the most horrible thing in the world. I think we'll be fine. It's not the end of the world. It's not the biggest problem ever. I think we'll be okay. So that's kind of that, guys. But now I want to share my opinions on these games in general, because you know, I was having a little bit of okay, guys, so the last part of this video was supposed to be an opinion piece, but I want to kind of remove that because it went on for too long and I just did not stop. But essentially, my opinion piece was going to be about how I feel about the pricing of these games being a tad too much for games that don't really offer too much. And two of the arguments that I got from people saying to me, like, stuff, one of the arguments was essentially, shut up, you don't know nothing, the games aren't even released yet, we don't even know everything about them, we've only seen a few trailers, which is a fair point, right? I understand that. Like, I get it. We haven't seen everything about these games, right? We don't know how good the post game could be. We don't know about how the online's going to work like, and that sort of stuff. We already do know that there are features missing that we've had in the previous Pokemon games that don't exist in these games, and instantly that for me feels like, okay, we're missing things that were in previous Pokemon games, and now you're charging me more for these new games, right? But then again, I'm also not, like, a dumbass. I understand that these games are more for the casual audience. These are to bring in the Pokemon Go players, which is good for Pokemon as a franchise, because that means it stays more relevant, and that means they can invest more money in these handheld games for 2019 and 2020 and 2021 or whatever. I mean, they have more, you know, more money to work with. and then you can invest that into better games, better journeys, etc. But my issue was, and my worry was that they would get complacent, because I've seen that with other franchises, and I just want to share my thoughts. Again, guys, I'm still excited about these games. I'm still going to play them. I'm still hyped up about them, okay? I'm still going to enjoy them. But my issue is that I'm worrying they will get complacent like Star Wars. My issue with Star Wars is that they started relying too much on nostalgia, which I feel like Pokemon has been doing recently as well, by simply having, you know, just Kanto Pokemon initially in Pokemon Go, and eventually, you know, the game started kind of dying off until they added in new Pokemon. And the same thing with, like, you know, these Kanto games and whatever, these Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee games. I'm hoping they'll add in more Pokemon over time, or, you know, if they make other Let's Go games in the future, that they will add more Pokemon in general and not just have 151, and maybe just this initial game, these Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee games are the only ones where we'll only see 151 as a way to bring in the casual audience, which I'm totally fine with. But I was a bit worried, and somebody had the argument about graphics, saying these games cost a lot more to make. I want to just debunk that real quick. These games do not cost more to make. These are Pokemon games. These are not like Battlefields or, you know, or a God of War or like any of those games. Like this is Pokemon, right? Making these sort of graphics is kind of simpler, way simpler than making the graphics that you see in something like, you know, Battlefield or God of War or Witcher 3 or whatever, where the graphics are really high quality and it takes a long time to make, and you have to hire, you know, tons of people to work on it and stuff. Like, you know, these are very much simpler, kind of lower poly to work with, which also is a bit hard. It's not like it's super easy, but at the same time, you have a company that's about, you know, worked on these sort of things for 8 years, being Creatures Inc., who makes all the 3D models for the Pokemon games, on board and making them, and they're only making about 151 Pokemon, plus also the Alola forms for those Kanto Pokemon, right? You don't have too many people, like, you don't have too many Pokemon to work with, so making the models isn't too hard. And also, on top of that, it looks like the models are the ones from Pokemon Go. So the argument that these games cost, like, they cost more because making the game costs more, that is an argument, and unfortunately, I've got to be honest, falls flat. If these games were like Gen 8 games, and you told me they're $60, I'll be totally fine with it, because I'll be like, okay, cool, there's a bunch of new models, there's a bunch of new Pokemon, there's a brand new region and stuff, but we're going back to Kanto. They've already done Kanto before. They already have a laid out plan for how Kanto looks like. You know how Kanto looks like, so you don't need to figure out new routes, new model, like new, you know, environments and stuff that you need to model out and make models for. Instead, you have a basic premise to work off of. You know what I mean? You have a general idea what you're working with, so it makes it simpler to make it. Hence why I'm saying, you know, Kanto, making these games is not more expensive, and I want to just bring that up. And also, there was this comparison between this mobile game that just, like, in terms of graphics on the phone, is very comparable to Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Of course, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee have higher fidelity, better lighting, and just more colors to them. But again, this is on the Switch, and this is on a mobile phone, and you can still kind of compare them there, you know what I mean? It's very comparable. If anything, I feel like Sun and Moon have better graphics than Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee if you played them in Citra. Just saying, they look fantastic in Citra, by the way. Like, if you haven't played Sun and Moon in Citra, or Ultra Sun and Moon and Citra, please do. They look fantastic. But I want to just share my thoughts there, guys. Again, I am still going to be playing these games. I'm still excited. But what I'm trying to get across is that, like, you know what I mean? I want to just make sure that, like, Game Freak gives us the best possible experience. And I think these games will be amazing. I think they'll be super much fun and super enjoyable to play. And I'm super excited. Wait, let me see. Can you come over here? Just real quick. Come over here. Dude, I'm excited for when me and this dude over here can sit down, take these Joy-Cons. Take that one. You know, they take these Joy-Cons, you know what I mean, and just, like, throw our Pokeballs together. I'm excited for that, right? I'm hyped as all hell for that. But at the same time, I'm also wary, you know what I mean? I'm very much like, you know, okay, I'm excited, but I also am very worried. I want to make sure they give us a good product for the amount of money you're charging. Because in the past, we could essentially buy 3 Pokemon games for the price of 2 that we're going to be getting now. And that's why I want to bring this up specifically. So that is generally the thought, though. Me and him are going to be doing a playthrough together, so that's for sure. That's kind of my general thoughts and ideas on what I want to get across here in the last part of this video, guys. So either way, thank you so much for watching. That's going to be the end of the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy. And again, this is just my thoughts, my opinions. I hope you guys don't hate me for it. Again, I'm just trying to share my opinions and thoughts, guys. So that's about it, guys. Either way, thanks so much for watching. My name is Ruffled Rowlett. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.